Olivier-Maxence Prosper is officially on the trade block, according to NBA Insider Marc Stein. We're going to break it all down here on Mavericks Today by Chat Sports. I'm Jeffrey Cooperstein, and while this news was not a surprise to any Mavericks fan, it's officially now that the Mavs are looking to trade O-Max to try to clear that final roster spot. We'll break it all down here in just a second, but this is why you subscribe, because when Mavs news drops, we break it down right here on the channel at youtube.com/MavsTV. We're going to cover it all, from trade rumors to roster news to anything that surrounds the Dallas Mavericks. You can find it right here on the channel. So we'll start with Marc Stein's tweet, who had this to say regarding O-Max. The Mavs have ramped up their efforts to create the needed roster space to complete the signing of Dante Exum, which they agreed to in the first couple of days of free agency, but isn't official yet. The push has focused on finding a new home via trade for Olivier-Maxence Prosper. And O-Max was a first-round pick of the Mavericks in the 2023 NBA draft, where the Mavericks ended up getting an extra first-round pick because they traded back for Dereck Lively. And O-Max is a guy who I thought was going to be a more NBA-ready player than Dereck Lively was, and that obviously turned out to not be the case whatsoever. And this is not surprising. I mean, I think we knew all offseason that the Mavericks were going to try to shop either O-Max or Hardy. Turns out that it's going to be Olivier-Maxence Prosper, who just really hasn't kicked on in his NBA career so far with the Dallas Mavericks. In 92 games played, he's dealt with a lot of injuries as well. The stats will not overwhelm you at all. And I really think the Mavericks have tried to be as patient and as, just trying to develop O-Max's career as fast as they can, while also keeping in mind their own needs, which is to win now. So they were trying to balance that, and it was really not fair to O-Max, frankly, just because he just really never had a chance to get into this rotation, because the Mavs didn't have time for him to learn on the job. They had to try to go win ball games, and they were on different timelines, so to speak. Like, if the Mavericks were just trying to build up to contending status, then yeah, O-Max could have played. But they weren't. They're trying to win now, so there really wasn't a spot for him, and it just hasn't happened for him in the league yet, and that's not to say it can't. I'm an O-Max believer. I'm a guy who thinks he can play in the NBA. He can be a rotational piece for some team in this league. I just don't know if it's going to be with the Dallas Mavericks, and that's unfortunate because, like I said, I really liked him coming out of Marquette. I thought he was going to be a piece that the Mavericks could use. He's a 6'8" big wing who can really guard threes and fours at a pretty high level, and that is something where I think he can make it in the NBA is his defensive ability. He just doesn't have any juice on the offensive end, which is something he's going to need to find if he is to stick here in the NBA. And as far as the Mavericks finding a trade for O-Max goes, I think it might be a little more difficult than expected. Number one, everybody knows that the Mavericks need to create this roster space, so the Mavs' leverage of trading O-Max is pretty much gone. And also, not many teams have A, open roster space, or B, open cap space in order to absorb O-Max's contract. Like, most teams are either above the salary cap and right below the first apron, or in the first apron, and there really isn't much flexibility in order to make trades. I've listed a few teams who I think O-Max could be a possible spot for. The Brooklyn Nets are one. They have cap space, and they have roster space as well. So I would actually list them as the most likely destination. The Warriors have a couple of open roster spots, and they've been known to take, flyers on guys like this. The Jonathan Kuminga thing still hasn't happened yet, so they probably won't do anything until they figure out what's going on with Jonathan Kuminga and his restricted free agency. The Miami Heat do have 2 roster spots open as well, and the Charlotte Hornets like to take on projects, as they did with Josh Green, and when the Mavericks, made that trade as well. So they've done business with Charlotte before. So out of these 4, I would say Brooklyn and Charlotte are probably the most likely to, followed by the Miami Heat, and then the Golden State Warriors is probably the least likely of these. But I think the Mavericks are trying to get a deal done sooner rather than later so they can go into training camp with basically what they know as their final roster. Predicted for me down there in the comment section, who will O-Max play for next? Do you think it's going to be the Brooklyn Nets? Will it be the Golden State Warriors? Is it someone I didn't even mention? Get on down there in the comment section and let me know what you guys think. Now, what you're asking is, why is O-Max being shopped? Well, it's pretty obvious. The answer is because they actually haven't made the Dante Exum signing official yet. In the first few days of free agency, the Mavericks agreed to a minimum contract with Dante Exum, who has been on this team for the last couple of years, and they want to make room on the roster before opening night. You're allowed 15 guaranteed contracts on your roster by opening night, and with Exum agreed to that deal, the Mavericks currently have 16 guys. And look, when you take a look at this team's roster, I do think that Exum is more valuable than O-Max simply just because of the roster construction and the current Mavericks needs. So I took O-Max off this roster and I put Hardy back on there. And while I think that either of them could be moved, it obviously sounds like it's going to be Prosper. And the reason that they're keeping Exum over both of these guys is because he will actually provide value for this team. And I know what you're thinking, like, yes, he does get injured quite a lot, and we have documented that multiple times here on the channel. But when Dante is healthy, he does things for this team that neither O-Max nor Hardy can do. Dante Exum can play true point guard, number one. Number two, he's a point of attack defender. Number three, he's an excellent three-point shooter, as he has shown in his first couple of years in Dallas with the Mavericks. I mean, he shot 49% in year one with the Mavericks and 43% last year, and I know that's not on a ton of volume. He was never looked at either as a three-point shooter in his first NBA stint. Then he went over to Europe for a couple of seasons and really honed in on his three-point skills, and it's shown off in dividends with the Mavericks. And it's not like he's creating his own shot. It's really more of a catch and shoot. If he finds himself open in the corner at the top of the key, you can rely on him to knock it down. But what I like about Dante the most is he's really a pace pusher on the offensive end. Off a missed basket, you get the rebound, you throw it out to Dante Exum. He's going to get up the floor and get up the floor in a hurry. And I think that's what the Mavericks were really lacking last season, was a guy who can push the pace. Now, Brandon Williams can do that as well, but if you have both of them and you can play those guys together on the court, I think that's a lineup that Jason Kidd should certainly explore, especially early in the season when you're without Kyrie. D'Angelo Russell, I think, will be able to do that, but having Exum as an option off the bench and as a point of attack defender creates minutes for him in this rotation. Like, if he is fully healthy, I expect Dante to play about 20 to 24 minutes a night here with the Dallas Mavericks, and I think that he can be used as a true point guard. He can be used as a two as well, along with another guard. So he provides more value than what O-Max and Hardy bring, especially given the depth on this team that the Mavericks have at the wing spot. The key for Dante is you just need him to stay healthy the entire season. He missed 62 games last year, was limited to just 20 games. I believe he had multiple wrist fractures. He fractured his wrist in training camp. Then he did it again, and we thought he was going to be out for the season, but he actually came back there at the end of the season, played great in that game in the play-in against Sacramento to advance the Mavericks, even though they ended up losing to the Memphis Grizzlies there. But I do think that if he can stay healthy, he could be a decent piece for this Mavericks team going forward. You just got to hope that he can stay out of the injury room. Today's show is sponsored by Prize Picks, and we'll get to the rest of the show here in just a moment. But America's #1 daily fantasy sports app is back as the sponsor of Mavericks Today by Chat Sports. And we are so excited to bring you the latest from Prize Picks as football is underway. College football is here starting tomorrow. I can't believe it's officially starting tomorrow. Prize Picks is super simple to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 to 6 player stat projections. And if you get your picks right, you can cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. Prize Picks is also the best place to get action in more than 40 states, including California, Georgia, Florida, and of course Texas. They put their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. You can do it on Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard for quick and easy deposits and withdrawals into your account this football season. Here is my projection for week 1 college football: Texas, Ohio State. I'm taking the more on Arch Manning passing touchdowns at 1.5. I'm going to take the less on Jeremiah Smith receiving yards at 75.5, as Texas did a really good job on Jeremiah Smith in the playoffs. And then I'll take the more on Quintravion, a.k.a. Trey Wisner, rushing receiving touchdowns at 1/2 there. So you can copy my picks or make picks of your own. Just please make sure you do it with our friends over at Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get a $50 bonus after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That link will be in the comments and description of today's show. It is Prize Picks. Run your game. So why aren't the Mavericks shopping Jaden Hardy? Why did they elect to go the Prosper route as far as getting rid of him? And I think there's a couple of reasons. Number one, I think that they believe in Jaden Hardy a little bit more than O-Max, given by the fact they gave him a 3-year contract extension, which he's going to be in the first year of. And we'll get to that in a second. But I just think that O-Max maybe has a little more trade value than Jaden Hardy right now. And that's not to say Hardy can't do some things on the NBA court. Like, I really believe he can. In his first 3 seasons, he's kind of shown the ability to be a little bit of a microwave, and he's able to score. He's able to get it in a hurry on the offensive end, if we're being honest with you. Now, is he going to be able to do that every single night if he's in a rotation for 20 to 25 minutes? I'm not sure, but he has shown the ability to do it, in spurts, and I do think that if the Mavericks need that on a night where you're dealing with a lot of injuries and you're dealing with things where Hardy has to play, you can throw him out there and he can go get you 20 points. Now, it's not going to be the most efficient 20, but that's why the Mavericks, they liked what they saw, and they traded up to go get him in the NBA draft a few years ago. Like, he does have that skill in the NBA where he is a professional scorer of the basketball. Can he do much else on the court? No, not really. But he can score the basketball, which is why they gave him that 3-year, $18 million contract at the beginning of last season. And he's heading into year 1 of that, which you would think is pretty tradable. I mean, just $6 million a year for a guy who can score. Now, I think if it was a bad team looking to trade for Hardy, then maybe, but there's no team who I would consider a good team or a team contending for the playoffs that's going to trade for Jaden, just because they probably already have that guy on their roster. And the reason that I think they would like to move O-Max instead of Hardy is because they're so deep at the wing position already. You got Cooper Flagg, you got PJ Washington, who is likely going to sign an extension on Friday. You got Najee Marshall, and you have Caleb Martin as well, in addition to Klay Thompson, who's going to play some 3 for you. So O-Max is buried down on the wing depth chart, currently 5, maybe even 6 if you count Klay in there. So there's really just not any rotation minutes for O-Max here at this point in time. Not that there's many more rotation minutes for Jaden Hardy, but I do think there could be more opportunity for Hardy to play, considering the potential injuries that could happen to Dante Exum, because he's always injury prone. Kyrie's out for the first 50 games of the season. You don't know what's going to happen there. Who knows if D'Angelo Russell is going to be a reliable option for the Mavericks? What if D'Angelo Russell, God forbid, is like the JaVale McGee signing from a few years ago, and you just find out in the first couple of weeks of the season that he simply can't play? I do think that's a possibility as well. So you might have to bring in Jaden Hardy into this rotation to try to see if you can find some offensive spark. So that's why I think they're shopping O-Max over Hardy. But I'll let you guys decide. Be Nico Harrison for a second. You guys could keep one player on this Mavericks roster. Who would it be? If you think it's Jaden Hardy, type 1. If you think it's O-Max, type 8 down there in the comment section. I honestly would lean O-Max, but he, again, probably has more trade value than Jaden. So that's why O-Max is the one that's on the trade block. And just some final thoughts here. It's kind of sad that a Mavs first-round pick just really didn't work out, and he's already on the trade block, but such is the life in the NBA when you're a win-now organization like the Dallas Mavericks are. The Mavs window is short. It's 2 to 3 years at the absolute max, so they need to try to maximize it as quick as they can, and unfortunately, that's going to be by trading Olivier-Maxence Prosper. That will do it for today's show, guys. Appreciate you for tuning in to Mavericks Today by Chat Sports. Once again, when Mavs news drops, you know where to find it. It's right here on the channel.